You're with Julian on the Brown Notes, and Bruce Lehrmann named in a rape trial, not for the first time, and I make absolutely no allegations towards any guilt of Bruce Lehrmann. I'm simply reporting on what is now public domain knowledge. As you may remember, Bruce Lehrmann was the ex-Liberal staffer who was accused of rape by Brittany Higgins. That the accusation alone was then covered up, allegedly, by the Liberal Party for a couple of years in order to win an election. The answers around the senior Liberal staff, all the way up to the Prime Minister, of what they knew and the incredible likelihood that they were aware and did cover up, has never been effectively answered. Very few have ever testified. In fact, I don't think any of them have ever testified in court, unlike Brittany Higgins, who did indeed testify at length, something Bruce Lehrmann failed to choose to do during the initial trial where he was accused of raping Brittany Higgins in the Liberal Party offices in Canberra in the early hours of a Saturday night, Saturday morning scenario. And the most prominent rape trial in Australian history, possibly, which collapsed when a juror had accessed information they weren't allowed to. And the subsequent retrial collapsed when Brittany Higgins was essentially admitted to a, I think, mental health facility. And the court decided that the damage being done to her by having another trial was not in her best interest. So we then had this really horrific scenario, which seemed to almost be like a Bruce Lehrmann fan club in the media, where a lot of people seem to then regard Brittany Higgins as somebody to attack. Regardless of the outcome of the trial, they did seem to go after everything she ever did and rip her apart at the seams. And we've even had some of the most hypocritical and scumbaggy Liberal ex-MPs actually, or I don't know if they're even sitting still, but some of them actually try and go after her in court, blah, blah, blah. Brittany Higgins ended up with a settlement from the government, paid by the Labour government for an accusation of rape under the Liberal Party, who then attacked the Labour government for paying her out. It was a very seedy affair, and it co-joined with the whole notion of Grace Tame and the way that Australia has this incredibly dark sexist heart to it. Perhaps analogous to its occasionally rearing up its ugly head racist heart, which we just saw in a very famous referendum. So he has been accused again. Now, a lot of people found this out a long time ago, but I believe that Queensland law prohibited it from being reported in the media until the suppression order was lifted in the last couple of days. Now, you would expect that the person accused of raping Brittany Higgins in one of the most high-profile rape cases in Australian history, being accused again, would have been wall-to-wall front-page news. Instead, it is back-burner news, which again points to a structural problem in the Australian news media when it comes to women. So, Bruce Lehrmann rape charges heading back to court as timing of alleged offensive revealed. Bruce Lehrmann will be back in Toowoomba court tomorrow. The case against Lehrmann relates to an alleged rape after he was charged with assaulting Brittany Higgins. Mr. Lehrmann denied the accusations, charged almost 11 months ago, when an awful lot of people in the media were doing their damnedest to make him out to be a hero. He had already been charged with another rape. He was named as a high-profile man from Canberra. I think I even might have reported it on this show. That moniker is no longer necessary after the Supreme Court found there was no compelling reason to impose a non-publication order. It's expected there will be an update regarding his defence team's request for blah, blah, blah. Lehrmann's not been required to enter a plea, and his lawyers have indicated he will defend the rape charges. The Toowoomba case relates to an alleged rape there in October 2021. At the time, Mr. Lehrmann was on bail after being charged on August 6, 2021 with the sexual assault of Brittany Higgins in Parliament House in 2019. So he's back in court for a rape charge. You think this would be major news. The media seems to regard anything at all that happens to Brittany Higgins to be major news. And she's certainly not been found guilty of anything either. But they seem to have very different strokes when it comes to her. This isn't the only allegation that has befallen Bruce Lehrmann. Going back to last year, a man accused of raping Brittany Higgins in Parliament House was the subject of multiple sexual assault and harassment allegations, with other women reporting their own complaints after the Brittany Higgins claim. The reports, which were previously kept under wraps by a court, were on Friday made public after the trial collapsed, along with Bruce Lehrmann's attempt to prevent his criminal trial going ahead. I believe at the time another 4 women had accused Bruce Lehrmann of sexual harassment or sexual assault. And none of those cases went to the point of him being charged with anything. You have to say, he's in his late 20s or something? That's a lot of accusations. I don't have any accusations, let alone multiple independent women coming forward and accusing me over and over. So that is entirely up to you how you would interpret anything relating to that as bad luck, I guess. But why the reluctance on the part of the media here? Can you imagine if they found out that Brittany Higgins had lied? Can you imagine the wall-to-wall coverage? They would smash even the Labour Party over it. And yet it's just in the background. It's a bizarre scenario. I really do wonder what the media, how it works in relation to people like Bruce Lehrmann. For me, if I was a journalist, there are a number of issues that I would have heavily investigated, and I'm not suggesting that there is any untoward things going on here, but why did he leave the USA? Did something analogous to what happened to Brittany Higgins happen? I don't know that it did or it didn't, but he left the USA and moved to university in Australia and took up a new life in Australia. Given the amount of attention that he has got in Australia associated with rape charges, I personally would have probably gone all the way back to America, but he doesn't seem to have done so. Is there any reasons why? How did he get a $200,000 a year job as a senior advisor when he was a 22-year-old university dropout? Who does he know? Is that normal for someone to get a senior advisor role age 22 when you're a university dropout at the Liberal Party? Who's paying for his legal representation? I'm not sure he's been employed much. I don't know that he might be employed now, but I believe that he did lose the job associated with him when the Brittany Higgins scandal broke. Obviously, he lost the job at the Liberal Party, the senior advisor role. Are the media asking these questions? Because they seem to go into the past of women that do the accusing quite regularly. But, is this secret society stuff going on? I'm interested in all of this. Surely some journalist out there is too, and has broached that subject, but it doesn't seem to have ever come up. And why do certain men in Australia always side with the men, as though they're on the same team? The amount of support he's got from a certain base of men in Australia, and the amount of abuse that Brittany Higgins has got, really does show something that is connective tissue to the fact that 3 women were murdered by people they knew in the last week in Australia, including a woman in a school, which you've probably read about in the last 24 hours. All 3 were murdered by people that they knew, either at their home or in a place of work. There seems to be a line connecting a lot of anti-woman feeling in this country that connects dots between people, the response to people like Bruce Lehrmann and the actions against women that have very bad ends.